All right, got this 2013 Kia Sorento with the V6 all-wheel drive. The check engine light just recently come on, and I noticed we got a P0711 transmission fluid temperature sensor, A circuit range / performance. Now it is a history code, but basically there's a temperature sensor for the transmission fluid. The sensor is located in the transmission. I believe it's attached to or part of the valve body assembly. So we'll go over the computer in a second. I'll give you a quick rundown on what's all involved in that, and some pinouts of the connectors that we're going to test. But basically we've got just one connector that plugs into the transmission, and then the wiring harness from that goes to the ECM, engine control module, and that's located just above the transmission. So shouldn't be too difficult to do some testing. It seems like a fairly simple circuit. It's just two wires, a positive and a negative. It's a thermistor, so basically a resistor submerged in the fluid that the computer sends a voltage through the sensor, and as the fluid changes temperature, the resistance of that sensor changes, which varies the amount of voltage. And basically there's a scale so that the computer knows if it's this amount of voltage coming back to the computer, it's cold, and then once that voltage changes from the resistance changing, then it knows that the fluid is hot, or whatever temperature it is. It's a pre-calculated thing in the computer that's been programmed. So let's head over to the computer. I'll give you a quick rundown on pinouts and connector locations, stuff like that. All right, so here's a picture here. This is our sensor. You can see this is the transmission with the front cover, I believe, the plastic cover that's on the front with it off. And there's our temperature sensor right there, attached to the whole valve body assembly. That's this big thing right here with all these cylinders. These are the solenoids that allow the passageways to open and close to direct fluid to your clutch packs and switch gears. So it says that the temperature sensor is installed in the valve body, which we just seen. Sensor uses a thermistor whose resistance changes according to the temperature changes, which I was just telling you about. The TCM, or transmission control module, which is also part of the engine control module. It's just one computer. It supplies approximately 3.3 volts as a reference voltage, so it's sending voltage out to the sensor. Voltage goes through the sensor, and then based on the resistance, which is controlled by the temperature of the fluid, the voltage that returns back to the computer is varied. So pretty simple circuit, two wires, positive and negative. It says that the diagnostic trouble code is set when the ATF temperature sensor output voltage, that's the voltage coming back to the computer, exceeds normal operating range. Now it gives us a little, I'll just scroll through this, and it gives us some specs. You can stop the video at any time if you want to go and read these. In case you're using a scan tool, you could plug in and monitor the data to see. I have a feeling mine is an intermittent issue. I drove the vehicle for like 2 weeks, and then the light came on, so I would expect it to have come on, pretty recently. I don't know how many drive cycles it needs to go through before it sets that code, but not so important. Here's a little temperature resistance spec chart. So you can see if it's 0 degrees, that's the temperature of our transmission fluid. Our resistance should be approximately 5.88 thousand ohms, K ohms. And then the chart continues with 80 all the way to 165 degrees, because that fluid does get very hot. So that's the chart. You can stop it at any time if you want to take resistance measurements, which you can do at the transmission plug on top of the transmission. I believe it's on the top, it could be on the side, we'll find out here. Here's our pinouts. I'm sorry for the awful picture quality, but this is our engine computer plug, transmission computer plug. We have our oil temperature sensor. Positive is going to be pin 57, and our oil temp sensor negative is going to be pin 55. So starting in this top right corner is pin 1, moving across to pin 25, and then it jumps back here from 26 up to 50. So the rows of 25, and then, as you guess, 51 to 75 and 76 to 100. So on the transmission, the plug itself on there, our oil temperature sensor negative circuit is pin 13, which is located right there. And then also our temperature sensor positive circuit is going to be 9. That's the 3.3 volts sent out by the computer, and that's located right here. So very, very simple. You can see this chart on the side is just our rough schematic. We have a signal going out, and then our ground, which is our return. So 2 wires, very simple. Now we can, it gives you a run through of how to sort of check this with your scan tool. It's giving us pictures of the GDS, which is Hyundai Kia's dealer scan tool, basically. But any scan tool, even a cheap one, as long as it gives you data, should be able to read this. You probably don't need any bidirectional functions. So as long as it's a mediocre, cheap one that gives you some data, and you might be able to look at this information. So let's go over to the vehicle, find out where this plug is, and I'll show you some pinouts. And I think the first thing we should probably do before we pull these plugs apart is we're gonna look on the scan tool and see what the what our computer is seeing as far as temperature, because if it's like negative 400, then we know it's probably the sensor, but we're still going to check wiring just in case. No need to pull the transmission all apart for no reason. So all right, so here's our data here. You can see oil temperature in degrees Fahrenheit, 23, drop down to 21. We're slowly going down, which makes sense. I just ran this vehicle for a couple minutes pulling it in. So it's not completely out to lunch, which sort of confirms my theory of the intermittentness of it. So let's go into the engine compartment and take a look here to see if we can see any messed up wires and where the connectors are. Okay, so there's our plug right down there, and the harness runs up into this main loom located right here. So it comes up into here, and then it runs back down around the air box and up this big harness right to our engine computer. Now we've got 2 plugs. So one of these is going to have our sensor. Oh, basically I'm gonna say one of these plugs has all our transmission circuits that goes to the PCM, TCM. So let's, we'll pull off these connectors, and I think what I might do first is I'm gonna leave these on, and I'm going to pull off the transmission connector so that we can check our reference voltage, which is the voltage being sent out by the PCM to the transmission, which should be 3.3 volts. That's our reference voltage. So let's get this thing off and see what we got. All right, so in order to get this off, I'll try to pull this up so I can show you. You can see we've got this thing right here. You need to push that in and then lift up this arm. That arm swings upwards like that. So once you get that off, we can take a look at our connector. I'm happy that it's not all green and corroded, so that's good. And now I'm just gonna go get my back probe test pin kit, and I'll show you which wires we need to go to and where our sensor positive or supply is. Okay, so got my multimeter. We're on voltage right now. There's pin number 9, and we're just gonna hook this up. I'm gonna go turn the key to the on position. All right, turning the key on now.
3.31.
Perfect, so that's right where we want it. So we know that our ECM or our TCM, same thing, is sending 3.3 volts to the sensor. So one more note, when you go to front probe that connector, just be careful, don't jam something in there that's bigger. I have like an appropriate test kit of pins that are the right size, that match the size of pins on the transmission coming out. If you have something and you jam it in there, you could spread the terminals open, and then you'll induce a problem of, you know, bad connection, and we don't want that. So just be careful what you're using to test with. You could back probe. There's needles that you can buy that go with your multimeter to slip into the back of the connection through the weather pack, or well, around the weather pack. And you could do it that way as well, but this is how we're doing it. So now I want to check. I think what I'm going to do now is turn the key off. We're going to disconnect our connector here, and we'll do a resistance check through the connector from here to there and see what we got. I guess what we could do as well, no, yeah, we're going to do that. Okay, so in order to undo these connectors, you have to undo this one first. All you're going to do is slide this green tab backwards. So you're going to go this way, and then you're going to push down on that button and then undo your tab. So it sits on there like that. You're going to slide down, push down on this while you lift up. And as you undo that, there's some teeth, like little gears here, that move slides this way to allow this connector to come off. Just be careful, make sure, sometimes dirt and stuff will get all jammed in here. Don't completely just rip this thing backwards. A lot of times it'll snap the teeth off, so just take your time, work it back and forth, and try to lift up on the connector a little bit too, or wiggle it back and forth as you're moving this arm. It'll reduce the chances of breaking the connectors. So you can see we've got our two connectors off. Now I need to go figure out which one is what. I'll look at the picture and see if there's a difference between both of these. Another thing I can do is just find the pin out, and I can just quickly throw my meter across here to see if we have continuity, and then we'll know which connector it is. Yeah. I don't know if this is our connector. I don't think it is. We'll try this one. We're going for the white one now. Of course, they don't show you numbers at all in here, so it makes it really difficult. And according to the wiring diagram manual, it says PCM connector B. And if you look anywhere on this connector, it does not tell you A or B. This is a very common thing in the car world. They just give you two colors, but then the manual says it's connector A or B, and it's extremely frustrating. So let's try the white one. I'm just going to guess that that is 1, so 25, 50, and then 7 in from that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, which is blocked off. So that is not the one we want. So then if we go the other way, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, which also does not have anything. So it has to be this one, and maybe I was looking at it backwards. All right, so they lied to us. Pin 55, which is this one here. That one is our sensor positive, which goes to pin number 9. So you can see we've got 0.15 ohms resistance, which is very good. So we're going to say that wire is probably good. Now, doing a resistance check on wiring isn't a 100% sure way to make sure the wiring's good, but we're just going to go with that for now. Ideally, we'd want to load test the wire, but that's for another video. So, all right, we switched over now to pin 13, and we're going to move down 2 spots to this one here. That should be 57, which is our sensor negative. And as I suspected, once again, 0.1617, totally fine. Normally for wiring, if you see like 0.60, like half an ohm, that's good. I think the service manual says, you know, up to like 1.5 to 2 ohms is probably fine. Anything, I usually say anything more than an ohm, I would probably go looking. It's usually suspect. And that's in like a short wiring harness. If it's a really long wiring harness, the longer it gets, the more resistance you're gonna build up. Anyhow, I'm not gonna get into it. So we just tested our wires. Like I say, the pinout on the instructions was wrong. They lied to us. So, pin number 9 on the transmission connector, that's our sensor positive. That goes to pin 55 on the brown connector. When you're looking at it like this, it's row 1, 2, 3, the 3rd row down, and then you move over this way to, so that would be 51, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it starts at 51. So 55 goes to pin number 9, and then 57 goes to pin number 13. So it was just this brown connector that they messed up. So that's good. The only other thing we can do now is to check the resistance of our temperature sensor. So I'm going to get some terminals out of my kit, and we're going to just go down to the actual connector that's coming out of the transmission, and we can throw our meter across the sensor, actually get a resistance reading to see what we got. All right, so we've just gone in this connector and plugged the one back in on the transmission for ease of access. Our resistance reading here, we're looking at like 66,000 ohms. And like I say, that's going to fluctuate based on the temperature. So if I had to guess, we're maybe sitting at like 17, 18 degrees right now. We'd have to check the scan tool information and then come out here and unplug it and then plug this in to get a sort of an accurate reading. But you can see we're sort of fluctuating around a little bit, but we're in the ballpark of 65, 66, 65. So we have to go look at the chart and see. If we can go look. Yeah, so we are completely out to lunch, I would say. Because for a temperature to be, oh wait, no, because we're in, so we got to do a conversion. The table gives us degrees in Celsius, but the scan tool gives us degrees in Fahrenheit. So what's 20 Fahrenheit in Celsius? All right, so the scan tool said it was 21 degrees Fahrenheit, which converts to negative 6.1 degrees Celsius. So we should be reading approximately maybe like 8,000 ohms, I would say. But seeing as we're at like 65,000 ohms, then the computer's thinking we're like, gotta be like negative 50 or 60 degrees Celsius, which is insane. So the sensor is, I'm gonna say, completely out to lunch, and that's gonna be the issue. So that pretty much confirms the diagnostics on how to completely check the transmission temperature sensor circuit and system on a 2013 Kia Sorento V6 automatic transmission, and
3.5 liter.
yeah, 3.5 liter. I'm sure they only have like one transmission with the V6, but I could be wrong. It's the it doesn't tell me in here. Never mind, doesn't matter. If you have any questions, throw them in the comment section below. We might make a video on replacing it. Not 100% sure yet, but give the video a thumbs up if it helped. Subscribe for more content, and we'll see you in the next one.